Well, Bryan and I met about 8 years ago in college.
Our relationship's really unique because we're both professional MMA fighters that fight for the UFC. Being professional mixed martial artists, your whole life can change in a split second, whether you get knocked out or whether you slip a punch.
We recently, brought that kind of theory home. I realized like your life can literally change in a split second. Bryan and I recently decided we wanted to take his parents on a vacation to Mexico. The vacation started off great. We decided to go snorkeling in the ocean.
We get on the catamaran boat. Miesha, my mom, and myself all jump in the water and we're snorkeling, and I check on my mom a couple times. She's doing good and gives me a thumbs up.
So Bryan and I had got intrigued by the tour guide that had this swarm of fish following him. So as we're snorkeling, I peered back to the boat. I realized that Chris was on the steps of the catamaran, and I saw just her body laying there, completely lifeless looking.
I hear my dad start yelling, "Chris," and just this blood-curdling yell. It was the scariest thing I've ever felt in my life.
Someone at that point had already pulled her out of the water. They had already removed her life vest, and one of the tour guides was giving her CPR. We both just raced as fast as we could back to the boat.
And when we got to the boat, I realized she's not breathing at all.
I said, "Bryan, you have to give her mouth to mouth."
And I start giving her mouth to mouth, and I'm trying to blow air, and I feel like I get a little bit in.
And it didn't really seem to do much, and she began turning purple. Her hands, gums, tongue was completely purple.
Her blood vessels were breaking all throughout her face. I started getting super upset and started yelling at myself. I was like, this is my fault. Like, I brought her. And I basically thought, like, my mom's dead.
It was getting very desperate. Her eyes just latched onto mine, and I felt like she was just literally looking into my soul. And I felt like it was just a matter of seconds before we were gonna lose her. I was like, I kept thinking, how are we gonna go home from what's supposed to be like a wonderful family vacation without Bryan's mother? I just remember thinking, like, we have to find a way to save her life. That's when I saw her inhalers laying there. So immediately I thought, she's having an asthma attack.
I always knew that she had, asthma and actually COPD. I didn't realize how bad her asthma really was.
We tried to spray a couple times into her mouth. It was not getting down into her lungs. And I thought, if I take the inhaler, maybe I can force it down into her lungs and maybe it'll do some good.
Miesha all of a sudden just out of nowhere takes the inhaler and starts inhaling them like crazy. And I actually yelled at her, like, what are you doing? Don't do that, you're gonna waste it.
I was just like, Bryan, I was like, we're gonna lose her.
She's like, I need to inhale this in there to get in her lungs. That's the only thing I can save her. I was like, do it as much as you can.
I took probably 7 to 10 puffs of her inhaler. I told Bryan, plug her nose, and I blew as hard as I could. It was so incredibly hard to blow into her lungs. I was so seized up. Her throat looked like a puffer fish. And I just kept blowing as hard as I could, and I heard this popping sound, almost as though like her throat was like popping open, and then as soon as I released, there was an immediate exhale. And so I did it again.
And at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, this is working.
And in that moment of relief, worry came again, because we thought, she's for sure brain dead. You never seen someone so purple in my life. And we both just, as we were riding back to the shore, just prayed.
Hey, I'm Dr. Travis Stork. Press here to subscribe to the doctor's YouTube channel and press here to help reduce tension.